and welcome back to America Talks Live. I'm Bill Tucker filling in for Steve Malzberg. We are taking your calls, 877-NEWSMAX. If you want to join in the party here, 877-639-7629. It's time now for our second panel of the day. And joining us for that, C. Edmund Wright, columnist for Breitbart and The American Thinker. He is a contributor for Talk Radio Network and author of WTF, How Karl Rove and the Establishment Lost Again. And also joining us is Brad Hirschfield. He is the president of CLAL and author of You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right, which, Brad, is not my motto. My motto is really simply, you have to be really, really wrong, and you're never going to be right for me to be right, and that's just the way it is. I want to start, guys, with these emails. It's interesting to me. I'm talking about the leaked emails, this latest batch that we've seen. And there are a lot of candid conversations between Hillary Clinton and various different parties, including former Secretary of Defense Colin Powell. Colin had a lot of things that probably most Americans thought at one point or another, namely that Bill Clinton was being a little bit of a sleazebag, and he wasn't exactly discreet in his choice of women that he's choosing to have affairs with. The media seems to want to stay away from this stuff. And in fact, when they talk about Powell's comments, they talk about the fact that, you know, he's discussed it with Donald Trump. Sam, and I'll go with you first. Why are we why is the mainstream media staying away from talking about this subject?
Well, I mean, you know, one reason is obvious, and that is, that's Bill, that they want Hillary Clinton to win the election. They think there's a problem with this story if they push it. You know, and then there's kind of this overriding fact. Emails are so mundane. We keep talking about Hillary's emails when really, Bill, what we're talking about is national security, national secrets, classified information. But when you just keep saying emails, you know, it tends to neuter the impact a little bit.
No, you're right. You know what? And I'll take that admonishment personally as well, because I tend to talk about these things as emails, not as national security issues. And I think you're absolutely correct in pointing that out. Brad, what are your reactions to these?
Well, the first thing, I want to challenge the premise. I don't think the mainstream media, I don't even know what we mean by mainstream, since in many venues, more conservative outlets are beating the pants off of more left-leaning outlets. So I think it's a funny thing. I don't know what's mainstream and who's dominant. And I'm not sure why more conservative outlets should give over the kind of power that comes with the term mainstream media when they are often winning the race. So
well, but Brad, just to answer your question, I think a lot of people, it's shorthand for ABC, CBS, ABC.
I understand.
Because
shorthand.
Go ahead. What? I'm sorry, Brad. I'm stepping on you.
That shorthand is it perpetuates the notion that conservatives are perennial outsiders, and as a result, may not have to take full responsibility for choices. It seems to me that actually no one is ducking the issue of Colin Powell, either on the Trump story or on the Hillary story. What they're trying to do is respect the fact that most of this information has come out as a result of hacks, and trying to respect some measure of privacy on the part of Colin Powell, I suspect because of his long record of profound service to our nation. The fact of the matter is, he said some rough things about Mr. Trump. He said some rough things about Secretary Clinton. And I think by and large, what people are trying to say is, let's call it a wash. The real story here, it seems to me, is why do these accounts keep getting hacked? Who's behind them, and what that means for the future of this country.
Well, the real story here is that national security can be exposed to the vulnerability of email, and really, we should be taking that as a serious lesson in this whole case.
Exactly.
I think it probably, I don't know if this or Hillary's health is getting the most traction with the conservative media. She's off the trail. She's going back on. I think it is today. She'll be back out on the campaign trail. But her big main surrogate, the big main man, Big Bill, was out on the road yesterday, and he was pretty dismissive of what her sickness might be. And in fact, he kind of got it wrong. Take a listen to this. Or maybe not. We don't have it. That's okay. Poor Bill. I'll have to speak for Bill. I do a Bill impersonation, but I can't. He basically was dismissive and said she has the flu, which everybody, millions of Americans get. Gentlemen, I just want to say my own aside. He didn't mention that 36,000 Americans die of the flu every year. What should we make? What is your take on the Hillary health issue. See, Edmund, should we care? I really.
No, we shouldn't care. Bill, you're just part of that right-wing conspiracy. It doesn't matter. Flu, pneumonia, doesn't matter. Hillary's buff. She'll pull through. No big deal here. The serious part, Bill, that the problem for Hillary is that I think the visuals, the images on Drudge, the images on the videos that have gone viral over the weekend, I don't think people are going to vote for this woman to be president. I mean, she looks infirm. It looks bad. Forget flu or pneumonia. We need to talk about maybe Parkinson's. We need to talk about maybe a series of mini strokes. I think the flu or pneumonia, whatever, is just a smokescreen for much more serious health issues.
Brad?
There's just no evidence for that. So unless you want to claim that doctors all over the place are simply lying, which I guess he can, but then we get into the whole business of does any charge leveled at anyone? Because we're going to see similar things that are going to come out and already have come out about Trump, and they're equally preposterous, right? That's not the issue. I think actually what links this story to the previous one about Powell and where there is a serious flaw and why Bill Clinton misspoke ridiculously. There is a knee-jerk response on the part of the Clintons, and there always has been, not to be straightforward.
To lie.
The most important lesson, I mean, and it doesn't matter. This is how little things become big things. The big issue is not her health. The big issue, it seems to me, is that she couldn't talk about her health in a straightforward way, so that even people who want to support her find themselves bereft of a person that they can look to and trust in. And that's a very serious issue, independent of health or policy.
And I couldn't agree with you more. We've had people who are in bad health, who served in leadership positions, who have bad health habits, and we benefited from being in power. It's the fact that she can't talk about it. A good example would be Winston Churchill, for example, who was a drunk, but who the world remains a free world because he was in power, thank God. But,
Exactly.
So, I agree. And I think it's this fact that we don't trust her, and we don't trust her to be honest with people. That's the real problem here. Really quickly, there was a Black Lives Matter activist. He goes to the University of Houston. He's a graduate student. Jerry Ford Jr., ironically, sounds like a Republican more than a Black Lives Matter kind of individual, who was robbed on the campus where he lives. If I hadn't told you what happened next, you wouldn't believe me, but his immediate response was that he thought there needed to be more cops on campus, and he demanded better protection. These are words of irony from a man who supports the slogan, "Cops are pigs, fry them like bacon." We've got about a minute left in the show, gentlemen, so let me turn it over to you to get your reactions to it. See, Edmund, what do you think?
I love it. I love it when liberalism is taken to such an extent that it comes around to bite the liberal on the rear end. This is the classic case, of the liberal suddenly, gaining a little conservatism once they get robbed or once they need a cop. The whole Black Lives Matter movement's been based on a series of lies and mischaracterizations. Thank you, NFL, for helping that. So I love it when some truth comes through.
Brad?
The old adage is no one wants to see a cop until they need one, and then all of a sudden they're their best friend. What I really hope will happen is that we can lift the whole debate out of politics and people be honest. Good, bad, or indifferent, and there are certainly flaws within the police community. The bottom line is hundreds of thousands, even millions of people who put on a blue uniform every day put their lives in danger to protect all the rest of us. And it's amazing how easy it is to forget that until you need one of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brett. I'm 100% agreement. And that's the problem for me about all of these protests. Instead of reminding us of the common need and the common good and the work that these men and women do in blue, we are reminded on a constant daily basis via these protests that there are a couple of bad cops out there. And yeah, there are a couple of bad cops out there, but they are so in the minority that it's significant, so insignificant. Guys, thank you very much. Edmund, Brad, thanks. And the rest of you, keep it here on Newsmax TV for more America Talks Live. Howie Carr, Joe Pags, Newsmax Prime with my friend J.D. Hayworth, and the Steve Marlsberg Show tonight at 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern.